medical school cost, the cost of medical education, the cost of medical school application, the cost of your tuition. I want to share with you the most painful mistake I made throughout my education and my entrepreneurial journey, and how you could avoid that in today's video. But before I do that, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Behrouz Momeni. I'm the CEO and founder here at BMO. I'm joined with Genia, who is our content manager. And I'd like to welcome you to our One Question podcast. In these videos or podcasts, what we do is we tackle one major topic and we try to give you as much information so you could avoid the mistakes that maybe some of us have made or others we've seen make, and be able to navigate the medical school education process as painlessly as possible. So let's go to our question and the topic today, which is medical school cost. What I like to do today with Genia is, we're going to talk about the cost. And the cost is actually a lot more than just the tuition and board exams, etc. It's actually a lot more. And I'll explain that in a second. Then two, I want to share with you a painful mistake I made that essentially made my progress in my own education, and then later on as an entrepreneur, literally I could have cut maybe 3-4 years of my journey, and instead I wasted 3-4 years of my life trying to do things that I shouldn't have. So I'll explain that in a second. Medical school cost, and what's the overall cost of this thing? Let's list them, and then you guys can do the calculation in your head. Of course, it depends where you are. We are generalizing here, obviously, but it's a good generalization for you to understand. Now, I'm thinking maybe a step before that. A step before that is, does a cost matter if the value exceeds the cost and the return on investment is greater than the cost? Why are you asking for the cost? That's the first question to ask. We normally start with these philosophical topics before we give you answers, because it changes the way you think and you may get your answer. Because if you've come in to get a philosophical answer, I want to get that out of the way as soon as possible before we get into specific tactics and I explain. But bear with me. How do you decide, for example, if somebody offered you a Ferrari for $5,000, would you not absolutely figure out how to get that $5,000, and they gave you by midnight tonight? By end of today, depending on whether or not you like Ferraris, probably do that. Even if you don't like it, you know what? What's the market value? It's like $300,000-$400,000. Okay, I'm going to figure out this $5,000 because of the return on investment. It's either enjoyment, or it's like, oh, okay, I'm just going to sell it to somebody who actually likes a Ferrari. I don't really care, but this is crazy. I got a crazy offer. Now, medical school costs, if you're searching for this, you first need to ask yourself, hey, is this something you want to do? And do you see the value? What is the value of being a medical doctor? Well, it's got different definitions for everybody else. I don't know, freedom. You're going to be your own boss. That by itself could be like a huge value on its own. Two, the impact the person is going to make. Three, the income. Let's not beat around the bush, because that's, at the end of the day, it is part of the equation. Any job you do, you got to be at least making a living. The salary expectations, lifestyle. Some people might not like it. Some people might like it. Depends on the specialty. You could have a very reasonable work-life balance versus not, depending on what you like to do. There's so many reasons, but you have to know the calculation in your head. Are you willing? Because the cost is not we're going to do the cost in terms of dollars, but the most important cost is your time that you will never get back. And no amount of money will give you your time back, ever. So once you have that answer, then you're going to do all of that and then justify. Once it's justified, don't worry about the cost. Instead, worry about making it happen. Now, without that, you came to this video, you clicked on this video, you want to watch this, you're listening to this podcast, whatever it is, because of the title. So we've got to tell you what the costs are. We're going to tell you two costs: time and money. Jenny, let's go with the time first. Like, what is the time? When do people start investing to become a medical doctor?
Yeah, it's a good question because, of course, for everybody, the journey to becoming a doctor is different. Some people dream of it from high school. So, they even plan to enter one of the kind of accelerated medical programs like QARMS at Queen's University in Canada or BSMD programs in the United States. So that can shorten your time, but not significantly still. So, considering your undergraduate degree, your medical school years, and however many years you decide to spend in residency, depending on the specialty that you choose, you can be spending anywhere from 10 to 20 years, really, becoming a doctor. I mean, that's a huge time investment. And I'm not even talking about the time investment you also dedicate to extracurriculars, volunteering, research, even jobs. Maybe you decided to take up a part-time job during university in a care home or some clinical work. This all adds up in terms of
MCAT.
time. Oh, yeah, studying for the MCAT, even
Wow,
filling out applications.
man.
It's an enormous dedication in terms of time. Just and with I want to kind of tie this into, that's why any setbacks are so painful for people who want to become doctors, not doing well on the MCAT or getting rejected. Like, it's just crushing, again, because it's such a time commitment.
Yeah. So, and again, how do you value your time? Depends what your perception is. I think you should value your time very, very highly. How do you value it? Think of the potential. What is the potential? Think of the richest person in the world. Figure out how much they make every year. That is probably what your potential is, because if somebody else has done it, you'll probably be able to do it. What's the difference? Well, yeah, obviously there's some luck involved by this effort, opportunities, making good decisions, what they decided to use their time for, etc., etc., etc. So I don't even think you could put a value on it because wealth is just it's just a measure that every year somebody becomes the most wealthier in the world, and that just keeps going up. So it doesn't really, there is no value. But then the second thing is the value of actual dollar amounts. How much do you have to do? So, okay, you got your undergraduate degree. Actually, you may have started doing volunteerism, I don't know, doing some stuff for med school before. So let's say $10,000 before you start your undergrad. Undergrad, I don't know, what are the costs? Depending on where you are, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20,000 a year just for tuition. Never mind that you still got living costs, and even if you live with your parents, there's still costs. You got to buy clothes, you got to buy school supplies, blah blah blah, all that stuff. Let's just, for the sake of argument, just throw in $100K, $100,000 for your entire undergraduate degree. Now you're doing your applications, all that stuff. That could cost, I don't know, $10,000, $20,000 easy, maybe more. Depending on how much you need to invest.
Of course, because it depends on, of course, how many schools you're applying to, right? Like, it can be for 15 schools or so, it's about $1,000 in the US. So,
Yes.
in Canada, the cost may be slightly less because there's just less schools, but it's still running very high cost.
Very high. So now let's just say 100, let's just budget 100 and I don't know, 25,000 from undergrad and applications. Now you got in. Is that it? There's no cost? Oh, you have no idea. Depending on what schools you got into, the cost could be anywhere from, again, I'm generalizing here, from 25,000 to 50,000 a year. That's 4 years. So let's budget another 200,000. Where are we now? $325,000. Now you start your residency. Oh, but I'm going to get paid. Yeah, you're going to get paid like 40 to maximum 60,000 a year. You're not going to get paid. It's not a pay. It's just still part of your education. So you're not really getting paid. And you got to buy equipment, you got to buy insurance, you got to buy, oh my God, you have no idea. So by the end of it, usually it's $500,000.
Yep.
And we
About
already
that.
told you the value of your time. So what is the message here? And what's the painful mistake I made? The painful mistake I made is the fact that I went through a PhD program and then I became an entrepreneur. Throughout these stages, I had the opportunity, literally the opportunity was like knocking at my door, to get help from people who've been there, done that, or got a lot of recommendation about resources that could get my learning, essentially reduce my learning to half, but I didn't take it up. It wasn't until, a few years after my entrepreneurial journey where I started even reading books. So think about that. The ignorance really got me, because I'm like, man, I wish I knew this like 5 years ago. Then I'll get to some other piece of information. I wish I knew this. So I had to keep recreating the wheel that was right in front of me. I'm like, no. I'd rather recreate the wheel myself from scratch. But it just doesn't make sense. Don't recreate the wheel. If somebody can help you, if you have a mentor, if you have a friend who's doing well, somebody, get that help. Don't waste time. It's so much more painful. Remember, we talked about the value of time and how it's connected this whole topic of today's conversation. And I cannot tell you how important that is. Right now, over time, I've gone from buying books to paying someone $10,000 for an hour. I paid someone to help me out. $10,000. I'm considering paying someone even more for an hour. Why? Because the amount of experience this person added to my entrepreneurial journey, literally, remember we talked about the return on investment. I probably saved 2 or 3 years doing trial and error to figure that out. 2, I got benefits immediately, and I was able to implement, and it actually impacted BMO, which means it impacted all of our students, impacted the whole operation and our mission as a result. So it would be selfish of me not to do that. It's literally it's irresponsible. If you know something can save you time and you're saying, no, I'd rather, then I don't know what to tell you. I've been there. It's very painful. Maybe try to take like little steps in spending, like, buying a book, or just grabbing somebody who's a friend and paying them $50 or something. Once you see the results and how they save you, then you'll be more inclined to pay more and more when you see the results, because time is money, guys. Just don't make that painful mistake, whatever you're doing. Whether you decide to go after this video, whether I dissuaded you from following medical education or not, whether you stay in it or not, there's ways you could reduce the gap of time. That's the most important. Whatever you want to do, whether medical school or whatever, your goal should be to get there as fast as possible, because you cannot have time back. There is no way you get time back, and that's all you need to get to that next stage, so you could enjoy your fruits of your labor, get to the next. Again, I think this is a philosophical topic to have, but I think we made a point here, and we did give you the actual medical costs as well. Any final thoughts, Shania?
I think, with regard to what you just mentioned, I want to give some examples from our own experiences at BIMA with students with this regard. So we've had students, apply to 15 schools thinking cast a wide net, it's, enough, but they didn't do the right choice. Like, they didn't choose the schools that would be good for them. And if they just talk to somebody who's been through the process, or an expert who understands what schools would be best for them, they would have gotten in much earlier. They wouldn't have wasted a year of their life and such a huge cost on applications. And that would have saved them a lot of stress, of course, and maybe wouldn't hit their self-confidence as much, of course, applying the second time. But that's just an example. And I think we want to finish the video by saying there are ways you can save on costs. Like you can try to apply to some of the cheapest medical schools. Like you can find our blogs on these topics on our website, how to get into cheapest schools or how to even pay for medical school to save money. But the reality of it, as Baruch said, it is not going to be cheap. Nonetheless, even if you attend the cheapest medical school you can find, it's not going to be cheap. So do save yourself at least time in your efforts and stress. So do reach out to somebody who's been there, who's done that, and I think that's the best advice we can give you on medical school costs.
You either pay with your time or you pay with a few dollars. If you make the wrong choice, you will pay both. So choose wisely.
Yep.
Now, some people, you go on Reddit and some dumb forum, some person would say something like, why do I want to pay for something at all? Well, don't. You pay with it in time. If you do it great on your own, then great. Somebody else may need it. It's so you know yourself, like no, somebody on a random forum cannot tell you what you need. You know, if you need help at certain stages, you get help. Whatever you don't need help, help others. Be a good person, help somebody else. And hopefully they'll help you out. And yeah, you don't necessarily always have to pay for things, but sometimes you may have to, and you should take that opportunity when it arises, when you know that it's going to help you out. Well, that was it for us. We hope you enjoyed this video or podcast, but if you're listening to this or watching this, as much as we enjoyed making it for you, if you did and you believe it's going to help a friend, share this with them. Subscribe on whatever channel you're watching this, of course, as well, if you got any value, so you don't miss any of our future episodes. And of course, if you have any questions, ask us in the comment section and we'll be more than happy to answer all your questions. Thanks so much for watching, and until next time, see you soon.
Bye.